Started? I think we are now. Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. I am Christina Fugate, and I'm here with my ice miller partner and co-chair of the franchise vertical, Alice Kelly. And we're really excited to kick off our new webinar series, Rise with Ice Miller and Friends. The purpose of this webinar series is to bring our friends together to learn more about them, how they got to where they are, their path to success, and talk about other issues that we're all facing these days and what things are going to look like in the future. And we're thrilled that we have David and Gabe here for our first guest. We want to make this a conversation with everyone. So there is a question and answer box on your screen. So please use that, ask questions. We'll keep an eye on it and we'll turn to them throughout the program. And if we don't get to them, we'll turn to them at the end. And we have some polling questions for you to keep it engaging for all of you. And last but not least, we're going to have a drawing towards the end of the program. So a lucky participant or couple participants are going to get a gift card to either Hot Box or Freshie. So we're really excited to make this fun and engaging and to have a great conversation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alice.
Thanks, Christina. Hi, everyone. As Christina said, I'm Alice Kelly. I'm a partner in the IP group in Chicago at Ice Miller. Welcome. We're really glad and excited you could join us. I've always wanted a podcast, webcast, and so my quarantine dreams are coming true. Before we jump into our phenomenal guests, we do have our first poll, which is in the morning when you rise. Is it coffee or tea? Kristen, can you put that up? I know what I am. I am for sure coffee. Let's see. We'll go to those results in a minute. But let's turn to our phenomenal guests. In alphabetical order, Gabe Connell of Hot Box Pizza and David Grossman of Freshie. They'll both tell you a little bit about themselves. We're really excited to have them here. I've had the pleasure of knowing both of them for a while now, and just their journey has been really interesting to me, and I think it will be to you. So why don't we start with you, Gabe? If you want to say a few words about yourself, and then Dave, that would be great if you could too.
Sure. Yep. My name is Gabe Connell, and I'm the owner of Hot Box Pizza. We started the company about 17 years ago, and we are still a very small player in a giant industry. So obviously our industry is known for the big brands like Pizza Hut, Domino's, Papa John's, and we are a small little player with 22 locations, all in central Indiana. We have 8 company-owned stores, and then we have 14 franchisees. We're obviously in the pizza delivery business, which over the past 9 months has become a pretty popular option.
That's great. David?
Yeah, hi, everybody. My name is David Grossman, and I've been a lifelong restaurant guy, franchise guy. Most recently, I helped develop about 40 Freshie locations throughout Chicago and Indianapolis. Still own 2 stores. Sold my territory a couple of years ago. Got involved with Epic Burger most recently. It's an 8-unit chain here in Chicago that I'm looking to grow. These are all corporate stores. But look forward to answering questions, talking about the restaurant business, talking about our current times. Hopefully there won't be much or any discussion on our big election Tuesday, as that's a mighty controversial subject. But worked in restaurants in high school, college. I helped develop about 150 Subways all over Chicagoland. Went to Subway training in Milford, Connecticut for 2 weeks. That was really a fantastic experience. Gave me a tremendous amount of confidence and understanding about how to schedule, how to order, the importance of reading the P&L. And spent about 13 years on the mall side. I was with a company called General Growth Properties for about 13 years and only did restaurant deals, and got to meet the founders of small companies like Wetzel's Pretzels and even Auntie Anne's Pretzels or Cinnabon, to big companies like Cheesecake Factory, and California Pizza Kitchen and Olive Garden and so many other restaurant concepts. And it was just fantastic to hear their stories and their journeys and their struggles. And I'm sure Gabe and I'm sure everybody who's participating can share some war stories. But this business is not for everybody. I personally love it. I love so much about it, and we can get into it. But happy to be here. Happy to be part of this panel. And hopefully you guys can walk away and at least take one thing away from this and make it beneficial for you this morning. So thank you.
Great. I don't know if we have our poll back on coffee or tea. What about you guys? David, are you a coffee guy, tea, or Red Bull?
I'm definitely not a Red Bull guy. I am definitely an iced coffee guy. I actually gave up dairy about 2 years ago, so I love a little iced coffee with 2 pumps of sugar-free vanilla and some oat milk. And I will drink iced coffee 12 months out of the year. It doesn't matter what the temperature is, but definitely an iced guy.
Nice. What about you, Gabe?
Yeah, I'm a Nespresso guy in my very manly Nespresso glass here. I'm addicted. I don't have a ton of vices, but Nespresso is definitely one of them. I can't get through my day without at least 3 or 4 cups. So in the restaurant business, energy is important, and it's long hours, a lot of times on your feet. So caffeine is my drug of choice.
That's awesome. Me too. I love my coffee. I really miss our Keurig at the office, but that's a good endorsement, Gabe, because I've been debating about an espresso or a Keurig for the home. Let's see.
I have both, and I have not used my Keurig in at least 2 years.
Nice. All right, looks like the majority of people are coffee. Oh, sorry, Christina.
Oh, that's
All
okay.
right.
Go ahead. Yeah, looks like we got a lot of coffee drinkers there. I am too, and I'm with you, Gabe. I've got multiple cups a day in me. That is my vice. So, David, you gave a really good introduction of some of the experiences that you've had in the food industry, but I'd like to hear from both of you. How did you get into the food industry? How did it all begin, and what made you get into it? So Gabe, do you want to go first?
Yep, sure. The way that I got into the food industry was actually goes back to my days at Indiana University. In my junior year, we had to do a project in a marketing class, and the gist of it was pick a brand with a cult following and do a project on that brand. And so at the time, the popular thing to do would be to go to the library, because we didn't have the internet yet, and look up, companies like Nike or Apple. I picked a small pizza company in Bloomington that was called Pizza Express at the time, and wanted to learn about their business and what they did to create fanatics in the city of Bloomington who love their pizza. And even a guy like me, who I grew up in Chicago then St. Louis, I was a fan from the minute I hit campus. So sort of how did they do what they did? And the more that I looked at the business, I kept thinking, why not do this outside of Bloomington? And if they can compete with the big boys in Bloomington and on the IU campus, why not follow IU graduates and continue to do that? So a number of years after graduation, I went back to Bloomington and approached the guys and said, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but would love to talk with you about the pizza business. And they didn't have an interest in franchising the business, but got into it the first few years as a licensee of Pizza Express. And then we rebranded and broke apart and rebranded the Hot Box and created our own brand. But I always liked, first of all, I always liked pizza and eat a ton of pizza. But I also looked at the pizza industry and saw that it seemed like it was an interesting industry in that on one end of the spectrum, you had the big chains that were known for being fast and efficient, not really known for having great quality, but pretty inexpensive. And on the other end of the spectrum, you had sit-down gourmet pizza restaurants. And it didn't seem like there was a lot in the middle that was fast delivered pizza at a higher quality. And at the time that I got into the business, I was looking at a lot of Mexican restaurants, where at the time you had maybe Taco Bell on one end and Mexican restaurants at the other, but then all of a sudden you had the introduction of Chipotle, Qdoba, Moe's Southwest Grill, that were sort of saying, hey, we're going to be in the middle, where it's still going to be ordered at the counter, it's going to be quick, it's going to be a little bit more than you're used to paying at Taco Bell, but we're going to have a better quality product. And I looked at the pizza industry and thought, hey, why not do that in pizza and wrap it up in a brand that people could relate to and have fun with? And that's how Hotbox was created.
Great. I do have to ask before we turn to David, how did you come up with putting Tootsie Rolls in the pizza box? Because my kids love the Tootsie Rolls at the end after they're eating their pizza.
Yeah, so that's actually a throwback to the Bloomington roots. It's something we've just always done, and yeah, it's funny that if we forget the Tootsie Rolls in a box, we're definitely going to get a phone call from a customer saying, "Hey, I didn't get my Tootsie Roll." So people love them and expect them, and yeah, why not some little warm Tootsie Roll when you're done with your pizza as a good little reward.
That's great. So David, how about you? How did you get into the industry?
Hey, real quick before I answer that, can you talk more about the Tootsie Rolls? How many do you put in each box? I'm a huge believer that people love something for free. And in my Freshies, I used to give away a little piece of dark chocolate. I remember growing up, there was a hot dog stand that used to give away that red hot dog gum, that red long piece of gum. People love something for free, and I love the idea of a Tootsie Roll. So how many do you put in each box?
We do 2 in a small, 4 in a large, and 6 in an extra large box.
Wow, I love that. That is fantastic. Well, you might see that at Epic Burger soon, and I'll give you full credit for it, Gabe.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I worked in a pizza place in town I grew up in. I delivered pizzas primarily for 2 years while I was in high school, sophomore or junior and senior year, and really loved it. It was a great crew. I ended up making pizzas. I ended up making hot dogs. I ended up working the grill. And I thought, it was a great job. I listened to music. I delivered pizzas sometimes to my friends. And that uncertainty of, am I going to get a tip? Am I going to get the change? Am I going to get a big tip? It was always really exciting, for me anyway, to try to find the house. And I still credit my sense of direction from delivering pizzas. I joke, my kids will say, how'd you find this place? Or how do you know where to go? And I give credit to my high school job delivering pizzas. So that was really my first step in the restaurant industry. And then in college, actually, I went to University of Kansas, and there was no Chicago-style hot dog stand in Lawrence. And me and a buddy opened up a concept called Pup's Grill, which was a traditional Chicago hot dog stand. We used Merck's cheddar cheese, which is from Wisconsin, traditional fries, traditional pickles, traditional hot dog without any ketchup on it. And did that for 3 years in college. And then I graduated college and studied marketing, journalism, and got my first job working for a PR firm here in Chicago. And literally after about 3 weeks, I didn't really particularly like the job, didn't really like the atmosphere. Me and a buddy, we tried to start a neon sign business. Back in the late 80s, neon signs were really popular. And I was literally walking door to door trying to sell these open signs to various businesses or other signs. And then I cold called Subway, got in touch with an area developer whose name is Phil Macy, and cold called Phil. And back in the day, some of you guys may or may not remember, there used to be these big neon signs in the Subway stores' windows that said, "We bake our own bread." And at the very top of that sign was this bent neon tubing of a chef's hat. It was very poorly done. Some people didn't know if it was a chef's hat or if it was a mushroom. But my idea was, hey, let's eliminate that chef's hat and have it say Subway. We bake our own bread. I studied marketing and branding and impressions. So let people drive by in the morning and read that sign and let them say Subway. We bake our own bread. Let them drive home and see that same sign again and have them see the word Subway. So he actually loved the idea and said, hey, can you maintain the same quality and the price and make me a sample? So I said, absolutely. So I had a sample made. It's about $550 for the sign. He agreed to pay for it. I brought it into his office. It looked great. And we had a conversation. And again, I had just graduated college. I spent that summer traveling all over Europe. And we talked to, he was Italian. We talked about being in Italy and the food in Italy and the people in Italy. And he literally said to me, you know, what are you doing now? I said, I'm working for this PR firm. I'm trying to start this neon sign business. I was actually writing for a sports publication as well. He said, you seem like a really smart guy. We're growing like crazy. How would you like a job? And I said, doing what? And he said, I don't know, but we can use a guy like you. So I said, what will you pay me? He said, $30,000. I stuck out my hand. I shook his hand, and I started that Monday. And I drove around with this guy. The first 3 weeks, this guy was an animal. Worked, 15-hour days. He didn't stop for coffee. The first day, it was like 2 p.m. He said, hey, are you getting hungry? And I was just used to eating lunch at like noon. And, you get that feeling. So I said, yes, I'm hungry. So we stopped for some food. But after about 3 weeks, he gave me a stack of lease plans and some site plans that brokers or developers had mailed to him. He said, you're going to handle our real estate. So I want you calling every one of these brokers. I want you visiting every one of these sites. I want you looking to see how close these sites are to a McDonald's, to a Walgreens, to a Little Caesars Pizza, to a White Hen Pantry. He literally said, I don't want you in the office. I want you in the car driving. Here's a gas card. Here's a cell phone. Now go. And so in my office wall, I put up a huge map of Chicagoland. And I put a little dot where every single existing Subway was. And at the time, like I said, there were about 50 in Chicagoland. And today there are probably over 500. Not saying that's a good thing. But, and then I put a star on this map where every single McDonald's was. And I'd get calls, or I really got to know the city quite well. And again, going back to my pizza delivery driving days, there was no GPS, there was no Waze, there was no MapQuest. And it was a real challenge trying to find certain locations or trying to determine if it's a good site or a bad site. And so I spent about 8 years, opened up over 100 Subway stores, mostly all franchised. Me and Phil Macy did end up buying an existing store. And it was really my first venture into ownership. It was a terrific experience. Kind of caught the bug. Always knew I wanted to be my own boss. One thing that my father always instilled in me and my brother was to be your own boss. And he didn't care what it was that I did. He didn't care if I owned a auto shop, a flower store, a pizza shop. Didn't care what it was. So I knew one day I wanted to be my own boss. And there was just that fit with the restaurant business. I loved it. I connected with it. I understood it. I felt like I grew up with it. It just seemed natural to me. So after about 8 years at Subway, I went on to a big mall company, like I mentioned, General Growth, did thousands of deals. And then I bought the rights to Freshie back in 2008. And then opened up, like I said, about 40 stores over the next 8-9 years. And I think, if someone asked me, like, what are your strengths? I would say restaurant operations, real estate, franchising are probably my top three strengths. And obviously, as you guys can now see, I can talk about that all day, but I'm going to throw it back to Christina and turn it over to you.
Oh, good. Great. Well, that's a really interesting story, and you learned a lot throughout your experience, and we're looking forward to hearing more about that. But first, before we get to our next question, I do want Kristen to put up our next polling question for the audience. What is your focus? And so we've got several options there for our attendees. So we're just curious to see what you guys do, where you are, what you do for a living. So we'll take a couple of minutes for you to go through that polling, and I'll turn it over to Alice for our next question.
Thanks, guys. So I think that is a good entree into our next question, which is the decision to franchise. And I think, David, like, what made you want to go with the Freshie franchise? And Gabe, you had your concept. What made you want to franchise? Whichever one of you wants to go.
Yeah, I mean, going back to my experience with Subway, it was a phenomenal, 7+ years. I got to meet Fred DeLuca, the founder of Subway, many times, and hear his story on how he initially grew. He had all company-owned stores, but he had this goal. He wanted a certain number of stores by 1974, and he realized the only way to get there was to franchise. So he began to franchise, and he never looked back. And I had a tremendous amount of respect for what he did, and how he did it. And I love the model. I think it's really hard, and Gabe can, I'm sure, agree to it. It's hard to own and operate stores. It's really hard to, and nothing is easy. And even based on my experience with Freshie, I really love the idea of
Hey, Dave, I think your audio went out. Shoot.
Did I lose you guys there?
You're back.
Yeah, okay, I had a call coming in. So with my experience, even with Freshie, I love the idea of helping people. Same with Subway, helping them even achieve their dream, achieve their goal of owning their own business, helping them, again, so I love the idea of selling a franchise. I love the idea of going and helping to find a location and negotiate a lease. I love the idea of hiring an architect and a contractor and building a store. All of those things, give me that sense of deal making and that sense of completion. And the beautiful thing about it is I'm able to get that satisfaction, and it's really somebody else's money. It's somebody else's investment. So I want to set them up to succeed. I want to train them. I want to make sure that they open up their second and their third and their fourth store, make sure they're successful. But I have very little risk in that game. So the real cost benefit is it's very little risk, but you make, let's just say, 6% of sales. I'm a pretty conservative guy, and I'm okay with that risk, as opposed to me risking, call it $300,000 or $400,000 per location, potentially making 20% or maybe even 25%, which is a heck of a lot better than 6%, but you can also lose 20 or 25%. So that risk and that spread is pretty aggressive. And for me, I love the idea of franchising and helping people grow and training them and setting them up for success. I don't necessarily need to own each and every one of these locations myself. And that's probably why I'm the biggest believer in franchising.
What about you, Gabe? What spurred the decision to franchise Hotbox?
Yeah, it's interesting that for me, I always thought we would never franchise. To me, franchising was what the big brands did. And I think that the way that I thought of franchises was back to my days in high school working at a big national brand, local franchise in St. Louis. It was owned by a group of lawyers who I think owned maybe 20 locations, and never met them. In the 2 years that I worked at their store, never met them. They just weren't involved. And that's what I thought franchise groups were, that they don't really participate in their business. They hire a manager to run it. And so to me, it was something I just wasn't interested in doing. But as I started learning a little bit more about franchises, realized that there's a lot of different forms that a franchise can have. And what I really liked about it was the ability to take our really great general managers and make them owners, put them in a position where they don't hit a ceiling at just running one store or maybe becoming a district manager. But if we have guys who are really good at what they do, they're really passionate about it, then they can own their own business. And to me, the ability to put people into their own business was pretty powerful. And something that I really liked. Also, one of the strengths that I thought we had when we first started out was we were the small guy. We were the rebellious, independent pizza company. And I thought that that gets watered down as we open up stores if we're just hiring general managers who maybe don't really have a true, genuine interest in the business. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Whereas if we have a franchisee, you have that ownership at the store level who's really going to be concerned about what's going on in the business. So there's a few different factors that sort of opened my eyes up to franchising. But more than anything, I think it was sort of saying, hey, this is our baby and we want to protect it. And the best way to do that was with ownership at the store level, rather than trying to grow and water down the brand through expansion.
That is great. So Christina, do you want to go over a poll?
Yeah, so we asked you all in the audience what your focus was or is, and we've got a few in the finance. We've got 3 in finance, 3 in the food industry, a couple in the C-suite level, 1 here just to have some fun, and 5 in legal. So we got a good diverse audience today. So Gabe, where do you currently have locations for your Hotbox corporate locations and franchise locations, and where do you see yourself growing in the future?
Sure. So right now we have 22 stores. Vast majority are in the Indianapolis area. Our first store was downtown Indianapolis, near IUPUI's campus. Our second store was in Broad Ripple, which if you're not familiar with the Indianapolis area, Broad Ripple is an area with a lot of bars, a lot of nightlife in normal times. It's a big area where people in their 20s move to when they move to Indianapolis after college. Butler University is in our delivery area. And originally we thought all of our locations were going to be those sort of late night college type locations. And our third store we opened in West Lafayette at Purdue University in the same fashion. And then we started getting a lot of people asking us, when are you going to open in the suburbs? When are you going to open in Carmel or Fishers or Greenwood? And originally I thought, we're not. That's not our brand. That's not who we are. But then after a while I thought, well, maybe this makes sense. And I kind of realized that, I thought about myself that even though I'm getting older, I live in the suburbs, started having kids at the time, I didn't view myself as being an old guy or not caring, well, just feed me anything. I'm old now. I'll just sit my lazy boy and watch TV and eat whatever food I'm served. I still cared about the brands that I associated with. So we took a stab at a suburban location and realized that it had a lot of opportunity, a lot of potential. So we have actually now more suburban locations than we do sort of our college nightlife locations. But our focus 9 months ago was to continue looking for downtown locations. Our downtown stores are our highest volume store. Downtown Indy continues to grow. However, that focus has shifted a little bit, and now we're going back to some locations that we passed up on, and we're looking at growing into some more suburban markets. We're also taking a look at areas outside of Indy, Terre Haute, where Indiana State is, Columbus, Indiana. But our goal is to grow out from Indianapolis. We had a store in Raleigh, North Carolina years ago that is no longer there, and one in Texas outside of Dallas that's no longer there. And the realization that we had is there's a lot of great real estate in between Indianapolis and North Carolina, or Indianapolis and Texas. And we shifted our focus to say, let's grow out from Indy rather than sort of, put a bunch of dots all over the country.
That's great. So David, tell us about where you have locations currently and where you're looking to grow.
Yeah, so right now, Epic Burger, those are all company-owned stores. I want to get my arms around the concept and make sure that stores can achieve, a 20% EBITDA before we start to franchise. But like my Freshie model, or even like my Subway approach, my guess is that we're going to continue to open up some stores in the Chicagoland market, probably do some suburban stores, probably see where the high volume Chick-fil-A's are located, the high volume Chipotle's, the high volume Portillo's. And then, like Gabe said, spread from Chicago. It's probably a natural progression to maybe test Milwaukee as a second market, maybe even Madison, certainly Indianapolis, certainly Detroit, certainly St. Louis. The Midwest is a big, burger area. People do like to eat meat. They like to eat grass-fed beef, and they like to eat all natural, hormone-free beef in the Midwest. So I think that the natural progression is to really, from Chicago, slowly start to go a little bit north, south, east, and west. Eventually, hit Omaha, hit Kansas City. And my ultimate goal is to retire down in Florida. So eventually make my way down south and get out of these Chicago winters and end up somewhere in South Florida. So, but that's the plan, is to make sure the concept is ready to franchise before we launch our program. Learned a lot, obviously, at Subway, learned a lot, obviously, expanding Freshie, and really want to make sure that the stores are profitable. We have our operations under control before we even think about launching a franchise program.
So David, that's a great segue into our question here about, how you make the shift to franchising, because somebody in our audience would like to know from each of you. I got two questions now. Your FDDs, and for those who don't know, that's a franchise disclosure document. That's sort of like an offering document that franchisors have to give to potential franchisees. They'd like to know, do you dictate the vendors that your franchisees have to use, or do you encourage them to kind of go out and find their own, like bookkeeping, food and the like? I know this can be a hot issue in franchising on the legal side about forcing franchisees to use specific vendors, but curious, do you guys have a set program, or do you allow them to a little autonomy there?
Yeah, well, certainly with regards to food, they have to carry our beef, they have to carry our bun. There's certain items that they absolutely have to carry when it comes to food. We, generally as a franchisor, we're going to try to negotiate pricing. We want signage to be consistent. But if a franchisee has, their own architect, if their brother's an architect, I'll tell them, hey, you can use your brother. It might take a little bit longer. He might not be as familiar. He hasn't designed the last 20 stores. So he might save you a little bit of money, but it might take you longer. I'm happy to provide plans. Same with a contractor. Same with a sign company. We want to make sure that our standards are met. All specs are met. If somebody has a brother or sister who's a bookkeeper, they can use that person. They don't have to use our recommended, whether it's a payroll company, whether it's even our banker. I'm a big Chase banker. Chase has been very good to me, and I recommend Chase. They don't charge me any fees. But if somebody has a relationship, or if there's another bank that's local or closer to their restaurant, I recommend that they use them. So I remember talking to Subway franchisees And I would tell them, no longer are you going to do business near your house. I want you to conduct your business. And back in the day, whether it's do your dry cleaning, get your gas, rent your videos around your store, and make your store your network. And make sure when you go into your dry cleaner, hey, I'm the owner of the Subway down the street. Here's a free coupon for a 6-inch sub. Or make sure when you rent your video back in 1989, or you get your gas, or you go buy your pizza, you generate a community around your store. So there has to be a balance. You have to make sure there's consistency. You want stores to look the same, feel the same. Product has to taste the same. You think about McDonald's, it might not be the best burger, but it's going to be consistent. It's going to taste the same. Whether you're in Indianapolis, whether you're in Chicago, or whether you're in Beijing, China, it's going to taste the same. So there's a little bit of balance, a little bit of give and take. And you hope the franchisees follow the system. That's one of the disadvantages of franchising. Some individuals might try to do things their own way, might try to do things a cheaper way, and that could certainly damage and affect the brand in a negative way.
Great. And what about you, Gabe?
Yeah, same as David, that it's important to us that anything that any part of the brand that the customer interfaces with needs to be consistent. So we want to make sure that we're all ordering from the same vendors as it comes to all of our product. We all serve Coca-Cola products. We all buy the same dough. We all buy the same pizza sauce, pepperoni, cheese. Also, it's important that one of the benefits of being a part of a franchise is getting better pricing because of the economies of scale. So if we had 22 stores out there buying from various vendors, we lose that. So we want to buy together. So there's certain things we mandate in terms of food distributors, POS system, but they're on their own to explore different payroll companies if they want, insurance brokers. We recommend the ones that we work with, but they're open to work with others and definitely shop that. But we feel it's our responsibility to point them in the right direction and shop that for them. But as David said, if they have a family member who's in the business and they want to, hey, my brother's an insurance agent, do you mind if I work with my brother? That's not a problem, but they do have minimum requirements are part of the FDD in terms of coverage. So that's how we handle it.
Great. So I have another question on books. I'm getting a little feedback. I'm not sure why, which actually feeds into my next question about, planning and the elephant in the room for all of us. How has COVID changed sort of your, future plans, as well as how are you pivoting with your stores that you have established right now?
Yeah, for us, COVID's been really a mixed bag for us. The first 2 weeks were really ugly in March. We were down about 23% the first week that everybody was sort of staying at home, loaded up on groceries and just making all their meals at home. The following week we were down 20%. And then slowly we started to get back to even to last year. And then since then, we've been positive the last year. But it's been a mixed bag that we have our residential stores are setting records and having just incredible weeks. But our stores that have notoriously been our busy stores have slowed down a ton. So our downtown store, for example, I saw a statistic recently that said only 85% of downtown workers are working from home. And for the majority of those, that means home is out in the suburbs, not downtown. Sporting events downtown have gone away. Big events and conventions have gone away. So our downtown store has taken a hit. Our college market stores have taken a hit. This past weekend, Purdue University had their first home football game, but it's not like what a home football game would have been last season or the 16 other seasons that we've had up there. So it's just very different for what we consider to be our bigger revenue stores. So as we look to the future, we think that will stick around to a certain extent. I do think that our downtown market will come back. I do think that college markets will come back. But I think, at least for the foreseeable future, I think residential markets are going to be very strong and have a lot of opportunities. And as we move forward, that's something that we're going to continue to take a look at.
What about you, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, certainly there have been so many, changes that have come into play. Certainly our real estate strategy, I know, Gabe and I spoke earlier, again, his downtown store is his highest volume store, as was my Freshie. The highest volume store really in the chain was downtown Chicago. Now, downtown is quiet, and I assume downtown Chicago and other downtown markets will remain quiet for probably most of 2021. So, certainly your real estate strategy has shifted, whereas, again, I would never even consider the suburbs or a drive-through. I would welcome both of those opportunities. But then, even our product, at Freshie, we sell a lot of juices and smoothies. So how do those travel? What kind of packaging, containers, how do we wrap a smoothie so it travels well? At Epic Burger or even DMK Burger, we would sell a fresh potato. Fresh potatoes are delicious. They taste great when they are freshly fried and presented to you, but they do not travel well. So at Epic Burger, we changed to a frozen potato, which is completely against our ethos of a better burger. So, delivery has certainly changed and curbside pickup has changed. Working with our landlords to give us some reserved parking, short-term parking for reserved pickup. So many changes that we really didn't even think of, February of this year. And now how our business platform has really shifted. And I don't know about Indy, but in Chicago, effective tomorrow, they are stopping any dine-in and any restaurant. I think in the suburbs in Chicago that took place already, I think maybe even yesterday. So we're, maybe even post-COVID, our in-store dining was about 30%, still a very small number where it used to be, closer to 80%. Now that's going to go back to zero. So how can we still maintain business with delivery and curbside pickup and carry out? What can we do to make sure that our product is delicious, our packaging is tight, customers feel safe, and there's so many things that have changed, and hopefully the worst is behind us, and hopefully things will get better in 21. But there's a real wake up, without a doubt.
For sure. And, it's interesting with Chicago, it's not really clear if it's indoor dining. That's the thing that's pushing the spread here. So hopefully it won't be for too long. So, with that up and down, you never know when a Department of Health is going to pivot and say, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. You've had to make a lot of on the fly changes. Which of those, sort of like, what do you think you've adapted in your business that is going to stick around even when we can go back to shaking hands and being within 6 feet of each other?
Yeah, I really do think a lot of companies are going to continue to work from home. I think they're going to continue to take smaller offices because of that. I think companies are finding productivity levels either at the same level or even greater. So I do think that delivery is going to continue to be huge, and carry out. And we need to figure out better ways to have customers contact us directly. We certainly do use Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash, and all of the third-party vendors, which we're probably going to talk about if there's time. And they're great, but they do charge significant fees. So with me, I want to try to make sure we get our guests to use our technology and call us directly for carry out or delivery, and certainly not go through any third-party vendor. Food's the same. It's actually going to be cheaper. So why not call us directly? So that's one of the biggest things I think is going to stick around is the delivery and carry out. And we need to do a better job with our technology and training our guests to call us directly. So that's a big focus for us. And then even maybe some of the packaging, making sure our food travels well. Pizza is one thing that's been delivered for years. And I really thought, between pizza and even Jimmy John's, which has made a living from delivery, you guys may have gotten hurt because now, and it was before COVID, everybody is delivering now. Delivery has become huge. People want that convenience, DoorDash, Grubhub. I thought maybe your business would be down or affected because you guys kind of controlled the market when it came to delivery. And now every other restaurant, not just pizza chains, are delivering. So, yeah, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that, Gabe.
Yeah. For us, first starting with third-party delivery, to me, it is sort of a necessary evil right now. Just like David, we prefer for customers to order using our technology, order through our app, order through our website. We think it'll be a better experience for the customer. We think they'll pay a better price. But we also recognize that a lot of people go to DoorDash or Grubhub or Uber Eats just thinking, I'm hungry. What do I want? So they're not thinking, I'm going to order a hot box. Let me go to DoorDash and order it. They're just thinking, I'm hungry. And they're going directly to their website. So if we're not there, we lose out on that revenue. I don't love the fees that they charge, but it still is profitable revenue for us. But I think it's here to stay for a while. Ultimately, I think something's going to have to give. From what I understand, none of those companies are currently profitable. Restaurants, I don't think are going to be willing to pay any more to those services, and I don't think consumers are willing to pay any more for delivery. So I think that'll be interesting to see over time what happens with third-party delivery. Related to our business, I think the things that'll stick around are going to be curbside pickup. I think will be an expectation moving forward. I think technology will be the expectation in terms of how customers want to order, that they'll want to be able to order from their phone, from a laptop, from a device. And I think either calling in an order or face-to-face ordering, I think will decline as it has certainly over the past 9 months. And even before that, we saw technology replacing people in a lot of these situations. Labor has been really tough over the past few years, and I think a lot of companies have figured, hey, let's try to replace people with technology where we can, and that's where ordering from a device, even if it's a device inside of a store. I remember the first time that I walked into a big national brand and was faced with a human-sized tablet to order my own food on was pretty shocking. But I think that's the direction that things are going, and I think the customer expectation moving forward will be customers will want that sort of technology, and there's a lot of big companies that are really good at doing it. And the challenge for the smaller guys like us is to say, how can we compete with that? If that's a customer experience, how can we deliver that? Knowing that we don't have the scale that Jimmy John's or Domino's or those types of companies have. And they're very good at technology. So we need to be good at trying to play that game and give our customers that experience, even though we're a much smaller company than those big boys are.
That's great. That's really good insight with respect to the third-party delivery and technology. But I want to jump to one other kind of concept that has really, I think, come about during this COVID era, that's ghost kitchens. It seems like a lot of concepts are doing away with in-dining places altogether, or real estate altogether, and they're putting together these ghost kitchens. What do you guys see out there with respect to this new concept, and do you see that to continue to grow and increase even after COVID hopefully ends?
Yeah, I'll jump in first, Gabe. I think that ghost kitchens are a really nice opportunity for someone to open a business for a lot less money. But I think there needs to be the marketing behind it. I really think that ghost kitchens can work for someone who has a great social media presence, and because you're not seeing a storefront. So for someone to be aware of you. They need to see you somewhere, whether it's word of mouth or whether it's on Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat or TikTok or whatever it might be. I think ghost kitchens are a great way for someone to spend less money on their startup costs and open a business. And even for the big brands, I see Chick-fil-A, I see Wendy's, I even see IHOP. There are so many big brands who are doing ghost kitchens, which is really smart. They can open up a location for a lot less money and really focus on delivery and carry out, because really guests are not going to see the location. They're not going to interact with the location. It's a great opportunity for big brands to alleviate some of the pressure on their existing brick and mortar site and maybe farm out some caterings or farm out some deliveries to these ghost kitchens. So I do think that, there are, too many people maybe getting into this business. There will be some fallout. There's just too much of it, but there's a lot of good that could come from it, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think that the best play right now for ghost kitchens are big brands that already have a presence and want to expand in a market, but want to do it at a cheaper price point. So I think that will be where ghost kitchens could be effective. Ghost kitchens first started up a few years ago, and it became pretty popular in New York for restaurateurs who said, "Hey, we don't want to pay these, sky high prices for real estate, in Manhattan. So let's take a B or a C type of location, and we'll just be a ghost kitchen. People don't need to come to us; we'll go to them." And it really didn't seem to work. And I think that a problem was, especially when you get into fine dining, it's about the experience. It's about being in the restaurant. A lot of restaurants, I don't consider myself, obviously, we always think of ourselves as pizza shops, not restaurants. But my friends who I have in the restaurant business, the alcohol is a big part of the business. And with the ghost kitchen, you're not going to be selling, bottles of wine or, cocktails and all that. So you miss out on those high margin items, which can be challenging to operate those restaurants. So I think that ultimately where ghost kitchens will make the most sense will be for big brands that are looking to expand in a market where they already have a presence. And the customer who's ordering, they don't know where that food's coming from. They just know, hey, I'm ordering from Applebee's. They don't know if it's coming from the Applebee's that's a half a mile away from them, or if it's coming from a ghost kitchen. They just know that they're ordering it and it's going to be delivered to them. So I do think that there will be a need for that moving forward, because I think this will stick around for a while, where we'll have a certain percent of the population that's going to be a lot more comfortable ordering food and eating at home than going out to eat, especially this winter.
Guess no one's looking forward to winter, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a break for our drawing, and I have we're going to do one from Illinois, one from Indiana, and the Illinois winner will get a $25 Freshie gift card, and the winner from Indiana will get a $25 hot box. So here we go. Our Illinois winner is Jackie Tinsley. Thank you for joining us today. And our Indiana winner is Lauren Kreiner. I hope I said that right. So thank you guys. We'll try to do a drawing each time we do this, depending on our subject matter. So you know the phrase, may you live in interesting times, although right now that's not really what I have in mind. So what do you do to stay happy or keep yourself positive and healthy during these lockdowns and uncertain times?
I'll let you go first, David.
I go to Benny's Beverage Depot, and usually I pick up like a 2-week supply, and then I go back like 5 days later because I'm out. No, I try to maintain some structure. I try to wake up early every morning, and I do try to get downtown for a workout. I belong to a club in the city called the East Bank Club. I don't work out inside the club because I can't understand working out with a mask on, but I do go outside. I go for a run. I keep my bike in my car. I go for a bike ride. I go down the lake, and I've really loved, doing that. It's been so invigorating, even on these cold mornings, to get up and go for a run or go for a bike ride or check out the city of Chicago. So I try to maintain a routine, getting up and working out. And, truth is, I try to, enjoy having my 3 kids at home. My 3 kids are, 2 are out of the house. 1 is still in college. So during COVID, family is certainly very important to me. So having, my wife, 3 kids, and 2 dogs at home, it's really special. And I don't know if anyone else can relate to that, but I'm always looking forward to the holidays. I don't know what Thanksgiving is going to be like this year. I don't know if my 3 kids will be home. But I try to maintain a relationship with friends. We've got 2 space heaters outside in my backyard now. I installed a TV in my backyard. Tried to make use of the outdoor space. So if anybody wants to come by and have a cocktail and enjoy the outdoors, but that's really what I try to do.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I like to get up every morning, work out. Actually bought a Peloton, which, talk about COVID being good for a business. I think Peloton has skyrocketed with their business. But I've actually gotten to really like it. I've always been a runner, and kind of like mixing in the Peloton is something a little bit different. But yeah, outside of that, we have 2, our 2 oldest girls are in college. Our son's in high school. Right now they're going every other day. They do a virtual day, then a day at school. So it's just kind of weird. And, what I like to do is try to keep the same routine. So get up at the same time every day and try to keep things normal. Played a lot of golf this summer, which I've never been a big golfer, but it's just an excuse to be outside and doing something. And I'm going to try to stick with that through the winter. Obviously not playing golf, but find excuses to be outside and be active, because I think I get pretty depressed when it's cold, gloomy weather as it is today here in Indy. Just gets depressing. And, typically we like to mix in a trip to Florida over the winter. I don't think we're going to do that this year. We go to visit my in-laws and certainly don't want to risk going down to their bubble and bringing anything with us. So we'll probably skip our Florida trip. So we're just going to look for opportunities to be outside and do what we can to be upbeat and optimistic, because otherwise I think it's going to be pretty damn depressing.
I think we can all agree on that. I was an early adopter of the outdoor bubble last winter. And so I got to get that out of the attic. I'm pretty excited about getting that back out. So Christina, do you want to ask the next question?
I will, and I think this is going to be our final question. But before we leave it, we do have one last polling question if we want to put it up. And it is, what has been your greatest challenge in 2020? So we'll see what the audience says. But then I want to throw it to both you, Gabe, and David. If you could do it all over again, what would you change? Anything? Have there been any challenges, something that you would change over the course of your journey? So what would that be?
Well, it's interesting. We just talked about the winter and staying inside. When I first got involved with Freshie, I want to say that next winter we had a storm here in Chicago that pounded us with 2.5 feet of snow. And for some reason, I drove downtown. I felt like I was the only person on the road, and I scratched my head. I was the very first Freshie franchisee in the entire system. I could have opened up in any territory, anywhere across the United States. Why did I choose Chicago? So maybe looking back, although I grew up here, my father was born here, my grandfather was born here. I've got roots here in Chicago. If I were to start a business and start over, maybe I would have done that 15 years ago in a warm weather climate. Maybe I would have done that in Florida, where maybe some of the tax laws are more beneficial to business owners. The income tax rules are more beneficial to business owners. And of course, the weather might not be perfect, but it has its pros.
Gabe, what about you?
God, that's a good question. There's definitely some things I wish I would have done differently. Ultimately, I'm happy with the decisions that we've made for the most part that have gotten us to where we are. I think more than anything, I think when I first started the company, I don't know that I appreciated the people side of the business as much as I do now. And I think really focusing on our people, their development. There are a lot of companies that sell food, and really what makes it a different experience a lot of times is the people that's serving it to you. So I think really focusing on the people development is something that if I could go back 17 years ago, I would have focused a lot more on that up front than I think I did.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so very much for taking the time out of your morning to chat with us. This was really fun. I was a waitress at a very young age, so the food industry is very near and dear to my heart, especially in the franchise arena. So we're really glad we could hear your stories, learn some stuff about you guys I didn't know. So always great. So, and Christina, as always, thank you for being my co-host.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you, David. Thank you, Gabe. This has been great, really fun. And we look forward to doing the next one.
Oh, and just so you know, most people didn't answer the poll, but it looks like workforce and decrease in customer demand are sort of been the biggest challenges that our participants have faced during COVID. Well, I hope everybody has a great Halloween, no matter how you celebrate it, and get lots of candy.
Tootsie Rolls. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.